This week, a series of shootings in Brooklyn in one violent night leave 4 injured. Plus, a man is sentenced for the killing of a woman in her own apartment. And
never keep both headphones in your ears because you never know what's going on.
Officials say subway crime is down, but riders still worry for their safety. Right now, Fox 5's Crime in the City. Here are the crimes across the 5 boroughs. We begin on the Upper East Side, where a mother was shot and killed in front of her 1-year-old child in an apparent murder-suicide stemming from a domestic dispute.
Tragedy on the Upper East Side. A mother shot and killed in front of her 1-year-old child.
Fox 5's Antoine Lewis joins us live from the scene on East 88th Street. Antoine, we're hearing that this all stemmed from a domestic dispute.
The NYPD telling us that, Bianca and Natasha. Good evening, everyone. And we can add to it, as you pointed out, that there was a child on the scene when this happened. We're going to give you a look at what's going on right now behind me, because you can still see we have police cars here. The street is still blocked off. The crime actually took place about halfway up the block, which is about halfway from Gracie Mansion. The street has been blocked. It will remain blocked, it appears, at least for quite some time, as it's been the case all day so far.
This happened around 9 Friday morning near East 88th and East End Avenue. Police say that 45-year-old Marissa Galloway was putting her 1-year-old baby into her car when she was approached by another woman, Kathleen Lee, the grandmother of Galloway's 4-year-old child, who was not at the scene at the time of the fatal shooting.
Miss Galloway puts the child in the back seat of the car. She is then in the process of putting the stroller in the trunk, where she is approached by Miss Lee, who shoots her in the head, and then when she's on the ground, shoots her in the back.
I ducked into my doorway for cover.
Mike Donovan, a building supervisor in the area, heard shouting, then gunfire, and called 911.
I saw the lady with the white hair fall onto the sidewalk. Then when I went closer, I saw there was another woman lying behind the car who was also shot.
Police say that 65-year-old Kathleen Lee used this Glock 9mm to shoot herself after she shot Galloway, killing her. Investigators found a second weapon in a tote bag they say Lee was carrying. Lee's adult son shares custody with Galloway of the 4-year-old.
The preliminary motive for this incident is going to be an ongoing domestic dispute. This ongoing dispute has resulted in 5 domestic incident reports being taken by the NYPD, along with 2 complaint reports. Neither of these incidents, any of these incidents, resulted in an arrest.
Police quickly blocked off the area, only allowing residents in and out. News of the incident upset many who live nearby, which happens to be less than a block away from Gracie Mansion.
I saw a few of the officers running up 88th Street, but they said about 2 women got shot. I saw one go in the ambulance, but they had the crime scene sealed off quickly.
Of course it's unsettling that this could happen in your neighborhood right across the street. You know, it's upsetting.
As you come back to us live, a little bit more information we're learning from the NYPD in regards to the suspect, the shooter that they've identified in this case, Kathleen Lee. They said that she is a former probation officer in Cook County, which is in Chicago, which is also her last known address. They believe that she's been in New York for the last 3 years, living with relatives.
We now go to Crown Heights in Brooklyn, where a woman was shot twice in the leg. She was just one of 4 injured in separate shootings across Brooklyn in one night.
This is out in Brooklyn. 4 people hospitalized after several shootings took place across the borough in the overnight hours, one of which happening in Crown Heights, where a woman was shot twice. It appears all these shootings are unrelated, so a lot of different investigations going on here. Good Day's Briella Tomasetti joins us from the scene with what we know so far about this particular investigation. Briella, good morning.
Yeah, Dan, good morning to you. We're still sort of scraping the surface for details here, but police say the suspect in this shooting is known to them. They would not provide his name at this time, but they did give us a brief description. Police say that he's about 6'1". He was last seen wearing a white shirt and black pants. He took off on foot in an unknown direction, but they believe he still may be in the area. Police are investigating a string of unrelated shootings that broke out overnight in Brooklyn, which left 4 people injured. According to investigators, the most recent happened in Crown Heights at around 1:20 a.m. 77th Precinct officers arrived at the intersection of Rochester Avenue and Lincoln Place to find a 43-year-old woman shot twice in the right leg. She was taken to Kings County Hospital, where she's listed in stable condition. Just 11 minutes earlier at 1:09 in the morning, police say they received a call for 2 men shot on Sutter Avenue in Brownsville. A 64-year-old man was shot once in the right leg, and a 35-year-old man was shot once in the right arm and twice in the left leg. Both were taken to Brookdale Hospital in stable condition. Investigators could be seen searching a parked moped with the flashlight, but the NYPD has not identified any suspects at this time. And at 12:30 this morning, police say a 21-year-old man was shot in the hand. It happened on Crook Avenue in Flatbush near Prospect Park. Citizen app video shows the street lined with ambulances and police cars. The NYPD took the victim to be treated for non-life-threatening injuries at Kings County Hospital. We're told officers recovered shell casings at the scene and are looking for 3 men in ski masks who ran off in an unknown direction. Here in the 77th precinct, shooting incidents are up 25% year to date. Meanwhile, shooting victims have also increased from 13 to 19. So troubling statistics, certainly, at least on that front.
Up on Randall's Island, NYPD officials say a fatal shooting was an act of retaliation amid ongoing and unreported violence in the area.
There was a large crowd out here last night. A number of those individuals were migrants staying at the migrant shelter next door. It was a festive mood, we were told, until the shots rang out. And tonight, police tell us they believe the motive was retaliation for the armed robbery of the gunman just the day before, where his necklace was stolen.
There was roughly 50 people celebrating the presidential election in Venezuela.
In a split second, the celebration in the early hours of Monday morning turned into a deadly shooting. Police and ambulances rushed to the scene, finding 3 people shot, 2 women and a man. The 2 women were staying at the migrant center on Randall's Island, where violence has broken out several times since just the beginning of this year. Monday morning's shooting took place outside it.
A male Hispanic comes up from about 100 feet and fires into that crowd, striking 3 people.
A 44-year-old woman had gunshot wounds to her head and neck. She was declared dead at the hospital. The 2 other victims, a 32-year-old woman and 31-year-old man, were also hit and also rushed to the hospital. Witnesses tell police the gunman fled on a moped. Those who visit Randall's Island seem far from surprised.
On this side, in the front end, it seems very erratic. There's a lot of people hanging around outside, riding their mopeds.
On Monday afternoon, about 12 hours after the shooting, a convoy of NYPD cars, including tow trucks, descended onto Randall's Island for what police called a quality of life enforcement, removing dozens of vehicles, including unregistered cars, mopeds, scooters, and motorcycles, some of which were reported stolen.
When it comes to ghost cars, paper plates, and mopeds, we've been speaking about this for the better part of 2 years now, and how it's probably our #1 quality of life complaint throughout the city, and how it conflates with certain crimes being committed. So robbery, shootings, you'll see the getaway car being mopeds or ghost plates.
As for the deadly shooting, police believe none of the victims Monday morning were involved in the alleged gunpoint robbery of the gunman the day before, where a chain was stolen. So far, no arrests in this case tonight. Police are looking for 2 suspects, one that fled on the moped and another one that fled in a vehicle with plates from the state of New Mexico. They're asking anybody with information that might be helpful in this case to contact them.
Over in Jamaica, Queens, an MTA worker was slashed inside a New York City subway station.
We have breaking news this morning. This is Jamaica, Queens, where an MTA worker has been slashed. Police tell us it happened just before 4 o'clock this morning aboard an F train that was stopped at the 179th Street station. The victim is 54 years old. He's a man. He was in MTA uniform when a verbal dispute broke out, some type of argument, and the suspect apparently slashed him in both hands. The worker has been taken to Queens Hospital. Police are now looking for that suspect, but again, someone slashed in Jamaica, Queens this morning.
Over on the Upper West Side, a man suffers a gunshot to the torso.
Police are searching for the suspects behind a shooting on the Upper West Side.
That's right. It happened last night at around 11:30 at night. Police were called to the Frederick Douglass houses on Columbus Avenue. They found a man who'd been shot once in the torso, the chest. The victim was transported to Mount Sinai Hospital, where he's said to be in stable condition this morning. Investigators say they're looking for 4 other men who left the southbound area, left southbound on city bikes. They're tracking that one.
Down in Chinatown, Christina Yuna Lee was fatally stabbed inside her apartment in February 2022. The man who pled guilty to her murder was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison.
The victim, Christina Lee, stabbed more than 40 times in a case that rocked the city to its core.
Antoine Lewis is live outside the courthouse with the details for us. Antoine, an emotional afternoon for the family who was in court for the sentencing today.
Absolutely, Natasha. Emotional inside the courtroom, in the hallway here in the park behind me. Emotions that you all are about to see right now.
Family members of Christina Lee grieve outside of the courtroom where her killer just learned his fate. On Tuesday, a judge sentenced 27-year-old Asamad Nash to 30 years to life on charges of second-degree murder. Lee's father says a lawsuit is forthcoming.
What my family really wants is not compensation. Instead, we want Christina's memory to be remembered and to be prevent others having a similar fate.
In February of 2022, 35-year-old Christina Lee walked into her apartment building near Chinatown early one morning when she was followed inside by Nash. Authorities say he forced his way into her apartment and tried to sexually assault her. Neighbors heard her screams and called 911. Responding officers tried to break into the apartment but were unsuccessful because Nash had locked them out, according to court documents. Police eventually broke in where they found Christina Lee's body in the bathroom. She had at least 40 stab wounds. Nash was hiding under her bed. A knife was recovered from the scene. In addition to murder, Nash also pleaded guilty to first-degree burglary as part of a plea deal with the district attorney's office.
Every New Yorker must be safe from the type of tragic violence that took her life. And I want to be clear that we hold accountable those who commit these types of horrific acts.
And today's sentence, unfortunately, will not bring her back. But what we hope is that it brings some semblance of closure to her family, who will continue to bear the pain of her loss.
Police say Asamad Nash was homeless at the time of the murder, which makes a request from Christina Lee's father even more poignant.
We are asking the New York City mayor to name one homeless shelter in New York City as the Christina Lee Memorial Shelter. It will contribute to prevent recurrence of similar incidents in the future.
Asamad Nash said nothing when the sentence was handed down. Now, when reading his victim impact statement, Mr. Lee, the victim's father, actually asked for the maximum sentence. And Stephen, he also at one point looked up and asked, as if to ask the heavens, why does it happen to his family? Back inside.
Yeah, really just unspeakable. Now, Antoine, walk us through the decision not to investigate this as a hate crime.
That is correct. It was never prosecuted or investigated as such. From what we are learning in regards to that is that while the city was in the series of those despicable and awful anti-Asian incidents, this particular crime, the investigators felt, didn't reach the same criteria as that, which is why he was charged with murder and burglary, using sex as a backdoor, if you will, as a precursor to commit the burglary. Those were the charges.
Over in Sheepshead Bay, authorities seized dozens of pounds of cannabis at an illegal pot distribution center.
Authorities have weeded out one of the city's largest unlicensed pot distributors. NYPD officers escorted 2 people to the back of a police car in handcuffs after a sheriff-led task force unveiled a $1 million illegal marijuana operation inside this South Brooklyn storefront.
This location has an extensive amount of cannabis and other products, and this is also a printing press where they're actually printing the illegal labels right here.
The bust happened on a residential portion of Avenue T in Sheepshead Bay.
Just bags and bags of flour.
Among the items seized were a printing press, fake labels, 50 pounds of raw cannabis, edibles, chemicals being mixed with concentrated THC, scales, and vape products. Sheriff Anthony Miranda told reporters that a flood of community complaints are what led to the massive raid.
This store is kind of identified as that location, an ideal location that needed to be shut down. Obviously, they're supplying other locations as well.
Yesterday, Mayor Adams put out a statement in response to the operation, saying, "Tonight, we shut down an illegal cannabis distribution operation in Brooklyn as part of Operation Padlock to Protect that was clearly targeting children with their packaging. If you run an illegal location like this, you're next. We'll shut you down." Operation Padlock to Protect is a citywide campaign that gives law enforcement the green light to padlock illegal cannabis shops, thanks to new authority granted by the state. Miranda offering this advice to concerned New Yorkers who want to see a lot less of these shops sprouting up in their neighborhoods.
Please continue to make the complaints. It's based on that information from the community that we were able to respond to this location and get this kind of seizure.
Now, typically illegal stores get slapped with a civil fine, but Sheriff Miranda says this is a criminal fine because felonies are involved. You don't just have the illegal selling of cannabis, but you have illegal marketing and distribution in large amounts.
Bronx Congressman Richie Torres is rolling out new legislation aimed at supporting bodega workers in his district and across the country.
A new push in Congress to make bodegas safer and to get them the money to help install more security equipment. It is called the so-called BODEGA Act, and it comes in the wake of a series of attacks at bodegas across the city.
Fox 5's Kendall Green spoke with Bronx Congressman Richie Torres, who introduced the bill today.
My cousin, who's working with me, that's his wife, and that is like my daughter too.
These are more than employees that work at Pomela's, a bodega in the Bronx. It's family working behind the counter. And Radames Rodriguez, the owner of the bodega, values their safety, but tells us he lacks the tools to maintain it.
What is the owners and the employees being through is very difficult.
That's why Bronx Congressman Richie Torres is rolling out new legislation aimed at supporting bodega workers in his district and across the country.
There's a crisis of violence against bodegas.
He aims to get the BODEGA Act passed to provide bodegas with grant money to install security systems like panic buttons and surveillance cameras to prevent crimes and help police respond more effectively. As the history of violence at bodegas, often deadly, affirms his push.
The single most traumatic event that I saw was the barbaric murder of Junior Guzman, who fell victim to a monstrous and murderous gang assault that began inside a bodega.
Junior Guzman and so many others that have been killed looking for a safe haven in a bodega, and the bodega owner wasn't able to do anything to save their lives.
Fernando Mateo, spokesperson of the United Bodegas of America, supports the legislation already after calling for more to be done earlier this summer.
The money is for us to protect our workers, our businesses, our lives.
We hope to secure enough funding so that every bodega has access to security equipment, to security systems that will keep them safe.
Having the panic button is very important right now because like that we could have the police or the ambulance or the fire department, more quick.
Now, as a bodega owner, Rodriguez says, of course, he would like to see immediate relief as a response to the recent violence at bodegas, but the introduced legislation, he says, is a great first step.
And finally, MTA officials highlighted a significant decrease in major crimes in the New York City subway system, according to the latest stats released by the NYPD.
Meanwhile, an MTA safety committee meeting was held today. That's where officials maintain that major crime is down in the transit system compared to 1 year ago.
It came one day after a woman was stabbed multiple times during an attempted robbery inside a Queens subway station. Fox 5's Arthur Chian is in Jamaica, Queens with more on today's meeting and reaction from riders.
If we talk about subway trends, then safety in the subway system is headed in the right direction. NYPD stats released Monday show a 15% drop in major crimes this past June compared with last year. In 2023, there were 203 major crimes committed in June, 172 this year. The NYPD's chief of transit says that 15% drop isn't even the most impressive part of it.
What's even more remarkable is that the robberies experienced in the New York City subway system in 2024 is the lowest in recorded NYPD history, going all the way back to pre-merge, which is the mid-1990s.
Officials are also celebrating the year-to-date numbers. From January 1st through the third week of July, stats show an 8% drop in major crimes compared with the same time period last year, with a 23% drop in robberies leading that charge. MTA board member Norman Brown compared the relatively low number of major crimes to the 4 million daily ridership of the subways, saying this.
It seems like it's like the safest place in New York. Congratulations. I think that's great work.
Compliments aside, the mayor and NYPD brass have said making the subway safer is different from making riders feel safe. Just a day before Brown's glowing compliment, A woman was stabbed at the Jamaica Van Wyck station in Queens. Officials say a panhandler she refused stabbed her in the abdomen 4 times. She's currently hospitalized. Comments from subway riders at that station don't echo praise, but rather caution.
Watch where you're going, always look over your shoulder, never keep both headphones in your ears because you never know what's going on.
It's frustrating, obviously, because we need to get places, but it seems normal for this neighborhood.
Officials acknowledge even with this good news, more can and needs to be done to make the system even safer, specifically mentioning adding security cameras inside subway cars and stopping fare evasion.
That's this week's Crime in the City. Subscribe for more at youtube.com/Fox5NY.